Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy came home.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Springer.
Thank you. Woo! Oh, thanks for coming by.
Woohoo!
Yeah, because the buses weren't running today, so
No.
I was thinking maybe we won't have a lot.
Because Gene wouldn't have been able to get
The buses
here.
are running. I
They
came
are?
here as usual on the Ludlow City bus, so I can assure you at least that bus is running.
Do you have like a monthly pass?
I do. I have an annual pass, actually.
An annual, yeah.
I get it for Christmas from some neighbors that know that.
That don't want you at home.
I'm not having what you would call a very dignified retirement, so I'm trying to get, by doing this, some more quarters in so I can collect Social Security. Good job, by the way, on the opening, as usual,
Thanks.
Megan.
I appreciate that. That's pretty taxing.
And I appreciate you moving over and giving space to the woman sitting next to you at
Yeah.
our fourth microphone, which we often have here if we have somebody on. And Jerry, I'd like to introduce you to Denise Compton from a group called Podcast Watch.
Oh, Denise, very nice to have you
Thank
here.
you for finally having me here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry you couldn't be at
Well,
our
it wasn't so much that as that you sent me on a wild goose chase, didn't you?
No, that was Gene.
You can't say it to my face now, can you?
See, Jerry?
See, what happened here, ladies and gentlemen, what you don't see is that they sent me to Asheville, North Carolina, and to Chicago to come and listen to this podcast and to be on it. And it turns out that's not where they broadcast at all.
Yeah, that was a sick joke by Jerry Springer in both times.
A very unappreciated joke.
Well, let's make sure that our listeners know that Miss Compton is with a conservative organization,
Yeah.
and I don't know if threatened is literally what you've done, but you have
Yeah.
said that you're contemplating going to Congress about it.
Well, I have a major problem with you polluting the airwaves with all of your nonsense. It's just drivel, and I'm absolutely sick of it. And I think that our government should be doing something to stop this and to ensure that everybody gets a second opinion here.
But you listen to it, obviously.
It is my
otherwise you
job
wouldn't
to
be-
listen and
Oh,
to
it's
make
your
sure
job.
that I am patrolling the airwaves from trash like you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Compton. So here's the.
Well, I feel at home when she says trash.
Yeah. I know. Well, here's the agreement we've made with Denise Compton. She has a place at our table for the evening, and
Thank you
we
very much
are
for
in
that.
Ludlow, Kentucky, and we sent her. My memory, as Jerry did it, to Asheville, North Carolina,
I
claiming
did
that
not.
we recorded there. Now, let me tell you how she got here. And before that, sent her to Chicago when his TV show, promising her VIP treatment and tickets to his TV show, when in fact the show is done now and for the last 6 years in Stamford, Connecticut. Correct, Jerry?
Stamford, Connecticut is where we do the show. I don't know why you had the impression
Because
that
you
it was in
very
Chicago.
specifically told me Chicago.
Jerry, it's recorded. Remember I
yes,
explained this
very
to you?
much so.
It's recorded so you can hear it. And she heard it, and others, millions of people have
These
too.
mics work?
They do. By the way, I was recently in Asheville, North Carolina, and this is how Ms.
We
Compton
happened
got
upon each
here.
other here.
She ran into me. She was manning a
okay?
Trump. I'm okay. She was manning a Trump table promoting Donald Trump and had
What?
buttons.
Absolutely. I'm
Make
not,
America
I'm not
great
embarrassed
again.
at all about that. I'm very proud to be a Trump supporter.
So I brought her
But
back.
don't you love America?
Absolutely. That's why I love Mr. Donald Trump. Absolutely.
But everything he's talking about is un-American.
I don't agree with that at all. I'll be taking notes throughout this conversation as well, just to take the
See,
conversation.
Jerry, I don't know that I would engage hers as much as you are, because I'm kind of intimidated by her, if you want to know the truth. But you're like, oh, let's just pull guns and start shooting it out with her. No.
Guns? What was
just
that? Guns?
Chill.
Just go ahead and take that
Just,
note too.
you know, she's...
Anyway,
Well, you guys like the gun.
absolutely we do. We do very much.
Yes.
So anyway, I'll be taking notes this afternoon and this evening too. I can take back to my group. We can listen to you at length and decide that what actions we deem necessary.
But you want to put up a wall.
Absolutely, I do. We need to protect
Well,
this
what's
country.
American about that?
To keep Americans in America, Mr.
you mean-
Springer. Absolutely.
You worried that Americans want to leave?
They're trying to get out, and other people are trying to get in, and we need
Well,
to keep
you
everybody
elect Donald
here.
Trump, and there'll be a stampede to get out.
I don't agree with that, sir.
Well, let me ask Megan, you, and Jerry.
Yeah.
Why are you silent on
Well,
this?
because
Yeah,
I'm
all
just
of a
uneasy
sudden, Gene
about
gets
this
real
all of a
quiet.
sudden, I'm
uneasy
under the
about
bus.
this. I'm uneasy about
Excuse
all
me,
of
Ms.
this.
Compton, but you were the one that came up with this foolhardy idea.
I'm uneasy. Well, she came back with my first wife, Bonnie, and me in my Mini Cooper, and it was not easy sitting in the back of a Mini Cooper
It was
for
really
about
and truly
a
not
6-hour
comfortable.
drive.
Not
I
comfortable at all.
apologize for that. And at the end of the night, I tell you what we're going to do, just to
I
make
would have
this all
taken you
work.
back on my plane, but you know.
We are going to pay for your accommodations tonight,
And-
I
and-
promise.
Who-
We'll cover
and-
that.
and where is that
Well,
exactly?
it'll
I'm
come
not
out of the
familiar
budget,
with-
and
I'm-
I'll
Out of the
work all
budget.
that.
I'm not familiar with the area at all. So where will I be going this evening?
We'll tell you that at the end of the show, and we'll get that all set up. By the way, I want to ask Jerry, you,
Yes.
and Megan, you, and Megan, I think, is feels as intimidated as I do. But Megan and Jerry, we recently came into a new year.
Yep.
You know, recently, a few weeks back. And it's typical that everybody does resolutions. And I have a resolution. I want to share it with you guys because it's pertinent to the podcast and see what you guys have as resolutions. I resolve to stop finally, and you're going to have to pardon my French on this, these lame ass jokes that we've been doing on this podcast. That is going to stop tonight. If I have
That's not
anything to
your
do with it.
resolution. That's Jerry's. Please
Well,
say it's
what?
Jerry's.
That's my resolution. No, I'm going to try to stop not only me, but everybody else.
Thank you.
And I was just thinking, you know, speaking of the resolution, I want to ask you something, Jerry. And Megan, I think you're going to agree. We're all in good shape here, I think. We all work out. We're all physically in good shape here. But I will say, Megan, as I look at Jerry, I think he could lose a pound or two. I'm just saying.
Because that's what good friends do, is they tell each other,
Yeah,
you know
well,
what you could do?
Megan, Megan, here's what I was thinking.
I'm in shape.
'Cause- yeah.
I'm in
Say it.
circles of shape.
Dare you.
It is. It's the shape I promote.
So the other day,
Yeah.
the other day, Jerry called me, Megan, and he says, "I'm on a new diet." And I said, "What's that?" He says, "I'm eating light." And I said, "What's that mean?" He says, "Every time I see a light, I eat."
This cannot continue in this manner.
Actually, I think it's as soon as the light
tell you
comes up, as soon as day comes up and the light.
I'm prepared to support your resolution. I never thought I'd say that. But
Actually, I think you should go on the seafood diet. You know, the one where you see
you see
food and you
and,
eat. Yeah.
boy, that.
What is your
All right.
resolution, Jerry?
What's your resolution, Jerry?
I hope this is the year I get what I want rather than what I deserve. No,
very
I
fair.
don't have to eat more cheeseburgers,
Okay.
And we may be able to do
to
that
take more
this evening.
to take more naps,
That sounds good.
and to have more fun.
There you go.
And I'm working at it. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't do the resolution.
I don't either.
Because I have no willpower. I was walking in here before. Where is that fellow?
Oh, my God.
No,
There was an older gentleman out there that I saw.
Yeah, and he
What?
said, it was frankly unsettling. He put his hands in my pocket. I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I need some change." I said, "Why didn't you ask me?" He says, "I don't talk to strangers."
How many times is that? 32,
I
33?
think that's at least 8. Yeah.
Sorry, Jerry.
I don't know.
Sorry,
But,
Jerry.
and Megan, you, any resolutions, anything that you resolved to do?
No, I'm good this
I
year.
think you're probably, yeah, you're
pretty
doing
solid.
fine. Yeah, if it's as good as last year, I mean, like,
Why
you know,
not?
don't
I'm
mess
here,
with it. You got it. Hey, I wanted to ask you, Jerry, there's been...
This can never be good.
no.
Whenever he says, "I want to,"
It's a
ask you,
serious
Jerry. Yes.
topic.
It's not
Yeah.
a good
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Guns.
Oh, yeah.
Guns. I mean, they just, and recently President Obama, I know, even did some executive actions trying to do what he can because he says that an inflexible Congress, you know, I'm starting to describe this to you, and I can feel my heart rate going up because you've got Miss Compton over there, and she's over there taking notes. And I want to say what I feel, but I'm almost afraid to say what I feel. So let's just dismiss that. But let me ask you about guns. What are your thoughts? And I know that you've done a little bit of research because we chatted about it.
Yeah, well, just one element of it. Well, the first thing that is so annoying is that almost 90% of Americans believe that we should have background checks on people who buy guns, universal background checks. And it just seems so reasonable. You know, you wouldn't want someone on a terrorist list to have a gun. You don't want someone who's mentally unstable to have a gun. You don't want felons to have a gun. You know. So I mean, it's just, why not check who's going to have guns? So it's just so reasonable. But we can't get it through because Congress is absolutely indebted to the NRA. That's how they get elected, by their funds. And so, you know, this is an example of what the American people really want. The Congress won't won't support. It's crazy. But anyway, other than the overall issue, there's just something that I found so hypocritical. There are many states that now have the open carry law, which means that if you can get a license to actually carry a gun out in the open. Wear a holster, whatever, or even a shoulder holster, or just on your belt. Like the old frontier days. And you can walk down the streets with a gun, and you can go into public places with a gun. There are certain places that say you can't come in, but there are also what we have, though. We have gun-free zones. Usually around schools and stuff like that, where you're not allowed to bring a gun. Well, here's the Republican Party, Ms. Compton, and conservatives who, for example, after there was the horrible shooting in Chattanooga, 5 people were killed in that mass shooting, Donald Trump tweets, we should do away with gun-free zones. The theory, the conservatives argue, that if people had guns, then when some crazy person comes and starts shooting, the rest of us can grab our guns and start shooting back. I mean, it's amazing how little thought went into that. But anyway, that's what he's tweeting. And conservatives are saying, every time there's a mass shooting, why do we have gun-free zones? If people could have shot back, that particular event wouldn't happen. And on Fox News, they're always talking about gun-free zones. And so, the reason that doesn't make sense is because even if in a particular incident it could have been stopped, if everyone's walking around with guns, just remember when you were in your 20s or in college, and you on a Friday night, you're at the bars and you're getting drunk and somebody's grabbing your girlfriend and a fight breaks out. Imagine if all these people had guns, I mean, so you can't even, it's not a matter of whether if someone had a gun, one particular incident would be stopped. What they can't measure is how many thousands and thousands of shootings we would have if everyone is walking around with guns. Everyone that gets pissed off suddenly pulls out a gun. People do get drunk. People do get angry. So, even, quote, normal people that never committed a crime, even they get momentarily angry, and they've got a gun there, they could shoot someone. So we can't measure that. But here's the hypocrisy. The Republican convention is going to be held in Cleveland, Ohio. And Ohio is a open carry. You can carry a gun in Ohio. You get a permit and you can walk around with a gun. But the Republican convention has said you cannot bring a gun into the convention. Well, why not, Republicans? Well, because, that things could get out of hand. So then I started to do a little research on the places where the conservatives and the Republicans do not permit people to bring guns even in open carry states. This is what I found. For example, you can't bring them to gun shows. They don't permit it at GOP events, at Republican events, at Republican conferences. They say no. At the Republican convention, no. At state conventions, the Indiana Republican state legislature passed a law which said that you can have guns in schoolyards, but you can't have guns at the Republican state convention. Oh, the presidential libraries, the Bush presidential library, you can't bring guns in there. They got signs, no guns. By the way, I think this is very smart, but I'm just wondering if they're so rah-rah about let's have guns and no gun-free zones, then how come when it's them? For example, if a Republican congressman comes in and speaks at a town hall in your district, you're not allowed to bring guns. And, those are the ones I got so far. Now, so there's the hypocrisy. Well, Republican gun shows, GOP events, Bush presidential library, Republican conventions. By the way, in the 2012, I'm older than I look. Well, no one's older than I look, but in 2012 at the Republican convention, they didn't permit guns. Okay? Now, here's another problem with that. In practice, even in open carry states, you can have it if you apply for a license, etc. But here's the problem. You're walking down the street carrying a gun at night. How does a police officer know whether you're entitled to have a gun? So who does he stop? Imagine you're a young black man. You've got a gun on your holster, and you're walking down the street. Now tell me, do you think the police officers are not going to say, "Excuse me, young man, where are you going?" I mean, how many mistakes are going to be made? I feel sorry for the police officers. How do they know? You got people carrying guns walking around. let's be honest, regardless of all the controversy, it's pretty damn tough being a police officer. And let's say you're just the nicest, you have the best judgment, you're the best person in the world, but you don't want to be killed. And it's late at night and you see all these, a bunch of people coming at you and they're all wearing guns. What do? Do you wait to see, and how are you going to find out if they're allowed to have guns and you know who they're going to stop and who they're not going to stop? So this thing has not been thought through. Just go and speak to police departments and see where they stand on this issue. Because the officers, they're scared to death about this. This could get totally out of hand. So, and here's the damnedest thing. Really, unless you're a total crazy, virtually everyone in America agrees there ought to be rational gun legislation. Nobody's saying no human being should have a gun. No one's saying the Second Amendment, you can't have the Second Amendment anymore. That's not the discussion. The discussion is how can we have sensible policies whereby you have your constitutional right to own a gun, but there ought to be limitations on what kind of guns, where you can have them, who's allowed to have them, universal background checks. In other words, that's the damnedest thing. We all really agree. If you're at any party with your friends or whatever and you have a rational discussion about it, they'll say, well, yeah, I don't. And even the Republicans are saying, don't bring guns to our convention. And I have to ask them, why not? Because I'd like to hear their rationale for saying no guns at the Republican convention. Because whatever their answer is applies to every other place in America, not just at a Republican convention.
That was good work on that, on finding that, Jerry, because I had not heard that before. I wanted to ask you another question that's a big shift to something much softer, but it's something that I've been anxious to have you describe here because I know about it. And that is back when you were a news anchor, and Jerry has been a number of things in life, city council member, a mayor, candidate for governor.
Pervert.
And also... a Catholic priest, number of things.
Yeah.
And along the way, he was a news anchor of the NBC affiliate in Cincinnati and took them to first place and was very revered, did commentaries and read the news and was the news editor on top of all that. While there, you hooked up with an organization called the Camboni Mission, wonderful group of missionaries, Catholic missionaries originally from Italy. They do a lot of work in Africa. And you teamed up with them on, I think, 2 trips to where? Tell us about those trips and what you learned from them. I think it's very informational.
Yeah, it was I won't say life-changing experience, but it certainly was a momentous experience in anyone's life, and it was in mine. It's 1985, Eastern Africa, Ethiopia, Sudan. They were going through a drought, which they have often. And they had not had rain for 4 years. And because there was no rain, people were starving because no food could grow. And it's a horribly poor country. And also because there was no rain, there was no sanitation. And therefore, people in Ethiopia were dying of diseases that we had cured here in the United States years earlier. They were dying of polio, malaria, yellow fever, tuberculosis. It was horrible. The American people got the attention because someone from the BBC, I think, did a report that was shown on Thanksgiving. And, while everyone's sitting around eating turkey, they watched this report about what was happening in Ethiopia. And all of a sudden, the American people, boom, it was knocked over the head. Oh, my God, this is happening on our planet. And people were, every day, the nation was dying because they were starving to death. And the pictures, et cetera, as we were gouging on our turkey, these people were just dying every day. And, in fact, the entertainment industry, there was this, they all got together, these top stars got together and sang We Are the World. That became the big record in 1985. Well, there was a group here in Cincinnati. Actually, there were 6 of us, started by a fellow named Bob Valentine. He was a pharmacist. And we started this group called Cincinnati Reaches Out. And the idea was, because there were a lot of pharmaceutical companies in this area, that not only did they need food, which is what everyone was starting to do, send food over there to the starving people, they also needed medicine because of these diseases. So we went to the pharmaceutical companies and we went to all the schools around here, and they would raise money to pay. The idea being that we would bring medicine over to Ethiopia. And I was with Channel 5 at the time, so I went with a producer and a cameraman, and then we went with the pharmacist, Bob Valentine, and a doctor, and also a priest from the Camboni Missions. Now, as Jene said, the Cambonis are an Italian mission that is very active in Africa, but coincidentally, they have a mission, they have a church right here in Cincinnati on Beachmont Avenue. And so one of the priests from there became one of the 6, and because he had contacts over there. So we got 10 tons of medicine, and we flew over to Ethiopia. And the experience was unbelievable because we landed, you go through Rome and whatever, but you finally land in Addis Ababa, the capital. And when we got off there, we rented 2 trucks, and we put the 10 tons of medicine in these 2 trucks. And then we rode out to where these people were. Well, they're out in the desert, and, they don't have roads. So, and they don't have signs, and this was before cell phones and everything. So we're staring at a compass. We had 3 people in each truck. And we did it in 20-minute spurts where for 20 minutes, one would drive, one would rest, and the other would stare at his compass. Because if you get 1 or 2 degrees off, you'll die because you'll just be stuck out there in the desert, without any more fuel, and there are no gas stations. And if you're lost, the worst part was you didn't know if you were lost. Because they said it was like 8 hours out. So for 8 hours, we're driving, and, you hope you're right. And really, you start getting scared and whatever. And then finally, in the distance, we saw these mud huts rising out of, whatever. And we're all happy, and we're crying, and we're hugging each other. Oh, we made it, And then, smugly, we think, oh, here we are, the proud Americans bringing medicine to the poor people of Ethiopia. Well, I got to tell you, when we got there, the people came towards the trucks. And it wasn't like they didn't like Americans. They never even heard of America. Because these are nomads. And they lived out there. They have no newspapers. There's no book. There's no television. There's no radio. There's no communication with the outside world. Their world is what they can walk to within a day and get back before nightfall. For all I know, they thought the world was flat. They didn't know they were part of a country called Ethiopia. There was no recognition of any of this. In fact, the most amazing thing we brought them, which the worst part was, every morning you'd get up and you'd bury the children that died the night before. I mean, there was death every place. But the children that were alive and, had some degree of health or whatever, for whatever reason they were older, the greatest gift we brought them, back then, you remember we had what we call Polaroid land cameras. So just personally, not for the news program, because we had, regular TV cameras, but just for personal use, I would start taking pictures of, these children. It was a miracle to them. Out of the camera, in 1 minute, all of a sudden, this card came out and a picture would form in front of their eyes. And this was frightening to them. What was interesting is if you took a picture of one child, it would have no meaning to the child because it didn't know what this picture was. The children have never seen themselves. They don't have mirrors, so they don't know what they look like. But if you put 2 kids together, the one child would notice the other child and then figure out that this was amazing. So we put these pictures, these Polaroid pictures, up on the inside of their mud huts. And when we went back the next year, and there were several years that we went, and then we started going to Bolivia and whatever. The end of the story is, so we bought the medicine, and then we built a health clinic on the Ethiopian-Eritrean border. That's right, between Ethiopia and Eritrea. And when I say a clinic, it was a 3-room building that was going to be staffed by the nuns, and they would be the nurses there that would distribute the medicine. So it obviously wasn't a highfalutin clinic, but it was someplace where they could get medicine. For all I know, it's still up there. We called it Cincinnati, and there it is on the border. But the amazing thing about the whole thing is you come back, And I'm thinking, if you go over there, you come back, if you weren't a liberal before, you're a liberal from then on. And what I mean by that is the human part of it. The part that says, and I've said this on several occasions in different speeches, that if I could take Bill Gates, the most successful American you can think of, by traditional terms of what we measure success, and a good person, obviously very charitable. But if Bill Gates had been born in Ethiopia, he would have been dead by the age of 5. The point being that 99% of what we are, we had nothing to do with. And you realize this is all just a gift from God, or if you don't have a particular religion, it's a gift. Somehow we're here. We had nothing to do with why we're living this life, why we're here, and we're not in Ethiopia and whatever health you have. And I'm saying, if you see that, how could you ever argue against helping people that are down and out? Or how could you ever be against something like health insurance? How could you ever be against, any of these what I call liberal issues that we fight so hard for here in America? And I don't mean to be partisan Democrat, Republican. I'm just saying philosophically. You see how human beings live, and the arrogance of saying, well, I'm not paying for that. Excuse me? I made it on my own. Nobody makes it on their own. I never competed with a kid in the inner city. I had great parents, and that's the luck of the gene pool of my parents. I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose to be born with a decent brain or whatever. All those things are just gifts. So you get that, and you have this wonderful life, and then you don't want to help people when they're down and out. For me, that's what the trip to Ethiopia, it just confirmed. I had always been, quote, liberal. Not that conservatives aren't good human beings. Of course they are. But somehow when it gets to politics, they rationalize not doing everything they can. Well, the government shouldn't take that program. We shouldn't have to pay taxes for that. Oh, stop with the excuses. If someone's hungry, if someone needs a doctor, they could give a damn where it's coming from, whether it's coming from a private charity or from the government. They don't care. They're hungry. Feed them. And I think that's the philosophy we should pass on to our kids and make it a much more compassionate country as well as a much more compassionate world than this fighting we have now, which is just, what's in it for me? Grab my gun. Stay away from my property. I'm not paying taxes. Damn it, I made it. Why can't they? Just change the attitude.
Before we bring on Papa Haynes and the Plow, which is our musical group for the night, I just want to note something. On a previous podcast, my best story was about the Mojave Desert phone booth. Some stupid phone booth in the middle of a desert where people would call and others would be there.
It was
answer.
out in Ethiopia, yeah.
No.
The Mojave
There is the
Desert.
difference in depth, in substance between us. That was my best story.
That's it. That's
And
all
you're
I got.
over bringing medical supplies to dying people. There's the difference. Let's bring in Papa Haynes and the Plow.
Woohoo!
And we're really excited to have these guys here because one of the key guys in the group is a college roommate of our music coordinator, who is Casey Campbell of the Folk School Coffee Parlor. Let's hear it for Casey.
Casey Campbell.
Wait, Casey went to college?
Casey did.
He did.
Went to big old college. And by the way, Casey Campbell will be going with us with Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery to Cuba in May.
Yep.
And I got to promote something as these guys are getting guitar set up, etc. And I mentioned it to Jerry, Megan, but I want to mention it to you.
Uh-oh.
You have HBO. Yeah, because you have like a serious corporate job, so you make more money than anybody here. So you have HBO.
I do have HBO.
And Showtime
Yeah,
and Cinemax, all those. You got all the premium channels, right? I imagine.
Yes, sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have HBO Go on my iPad. We can go from there.
Hey, you got to watch this show called The Poet of Havana. It's a
Oh, okay.
documentary. And it's about a
I
guy
have homework to do? Is that what you're telling me?
You do.
In order to
From
do
the, and I'm talking to Casey about this. He's going to watch it too. From this movement in Cuba called La Nueva Trova, which is these were and are the Bob Dylans and the Joan Baez's and the Pete Seegers of Cuba. One guy's name is Carlos Varela. The other is Silvio Rodriguez, as I recall.
What's the
and
first
this
name?
show, Carlos Varela is the guy that's featured in this show called the poet of Havana, and all our listeners should check this out. It is a great story about the folk singers of Cuba and what they have sung about over the years from the time of the Revolution, 1959. But largely, this guy's probably started singing around the 80s and really big in the 90s. And when we go to Cuba, and Casey's going to go with us, and he's going to be our folk singer that we're taking to Cuba, and we're down there hoping to find and to do some recording and conversations with the help of an interpreter from their folk singers. So all of our listeners, we're real excited about this. You'll learn more about it as we're rolling up on it, certainly when the episodes go up.
Can we get cigars?
Yeah, I think you can get them legally.
Yeah.
I think you can come back with like $100 of Cuban cigars. So anyway, tonight we have
Smile.
Papa Haynes and the Plow. These guys, we always hear these guys when they do mic checks, and these guys are good. Let's introduce people here. Are you Stephen?
Yes, sir,
Stephen
I am.
Williams. And we have Moose over there on the stand-up bass, and we've referenced Casey Campbell of here at the Folk School Coffee Parlor playing backup and singing harmony with you. And you have an album coming out. Or you're going to go into studio.
Yeah, in February. So we're looking to hit in February and come out sometime, hopefully, the way albums go in the fall.
All right. And we know, because we know Casey's story, that he did a lot of studying of entertainment and musical theater, et cetera, and then worked his way into the roots music field. What route did you take to get to this spot?
The same. We were in West Side Story together in college.
Wow.
Shut up.
You can't picture that, can you?
Shakespeare.
I mean, this guy's got that
did
kind
you
of
play?
Johnny Cash thing
We
going
used to
on.
do it.
You don't strike
That is
me as
great.
a New Yorker.
No, sir. I grew up in deep Alabama, around
great.
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Casey and I's small college was there,
Yeah.
Jacksonville State University, who plays
great.
for the national championship Saturday.
Yes, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. There we
wow,
go.
wow, wow, wow. That's
Yeah.
a cool story, Stephen.
Yes,
That's
sir.
pretty
That
neat
is
that
good.
was the path.
What's
yeah.
the weirdest thing Casey ever did in college?
You don't know. What's the rating on this thing?
Did the weirdest thing that he's ever done have anything to do with marijuana?
No.
Okay, all right,
no.
just wonder.
A lot of chemistry, but no marijuana.
Yeah, I got you.
You guys did
Hey,
great.
do a song, would you?
We sure would.
All right.
This one here is called the Southern Ghost. We'll slow it down for you
Papa
folks a
Haynes and the
little.
Plow.
Well, I rode with my cousin in his brand new used car to the parking lot of the local liquor store. And we waited for the right one. And we gave him $10 for his troubles. And he met us in the alley near 16th and Noble. We twisted the cap off that bottle and we passed it around. Yes, we both took a swallow. And it burned as I let it go down. But a little less each time I found it in my hands. And I never looked back. My father said, son, I know that you're leaving, and I wish I could show you the things you'll be missing, 'cause time is the one thing you can't buy back. had love and my family around me, but I couldn't see the tree for being lost in those leaves, and I hit that road running and took myself north. And there were times when I felt so alone, late in the evenings and nowhere to call home. But I taught myself to go to sleep, and I learned to live without the things I thought I didn't need. And I never looked back. I landed somewhere between hell and Cleveland, and I'd say I was lost, but that word's lost its meaning. So let's say I was messed up, because I probably was. I had a head full of things that needed changing, and the man in the mirror kept looking like a stranger, and my father's only son was just a southern ghost. And I thought about stopping all my drinking, am I smoking, am I running, am I way too much with the thinking? But tomorrow it stops, never came. Just a whole lot of reasons to keep running away. And I never looked back. No, I never looked back. No, I never looked back.
Yeah. Good job. That's Stephen Williams with Papa Haynes and the Plow. That's a lot of Alabama in those songs. And by the way, if you didn't recognize that, that's the song that Tony sang in the second act of West Side Story. Isn't it? That's the same one. Megan, you know that.
You're absolutely correct. I do want to know who you guys played in West Side Story. I
Yeah,
really
who'd you
want
play
to
in
know.
West Side Story?
I was Riff. I was Action.
Shut up.
Yeah, and we did all the fights at that time.
Did you do the dancing?
I was
yeah.
we did all the fight choreography. Oh yeah, we danced and
Love
I
it.
mean, we
Toe
did it up.
touches and all.
That's amazing.
love it.
That's
We did
very
years ago.
cool. Very
We were
cool.
together. Our first show, we were G-Men together in a Neil Simon show.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, and we're going to ask you to do Irene goodnight if you would. We'd love to have you do that, Stephen. Before you do, let's give a round of applause to Denise Compton. It's been very gracious to be here with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And by the way, just to show you that Jerry
do
Springer and
appreciate
Gene Galvin are basically good guys, I want to say to Miss Compton that for tonight, because she's been bugging me like, all driving up here from Asheville, where will I stay? Where will I stay?
I would still like to know where I'm going to stay. That would be very nice.
It is. You deserve to have nice accommodations. So here's the deal. You're going to go out the door here, Folksville Coffee Party. You're going to turn right. You're going to go down Route 8 in Ludlow, Kentucky. It's a country road. About 6 miles down on the right, you're going to see a home that looks like the Biltmore, which you saw in Asheville. That's Jerry Springer's house.
Oh, I didn't realize you lived right
you
down
are going to
the street. I
have
had no
accommodations in
idea.
his guest house in the back.
Well, that's
go back
very
the
kind.
long driveway. When you get to the river, you've gone too far. But that's
right,
where
all right.
you are going to be tonight. Thank you, Miss
I
Compton,
truly
for coming.
appreciate it. Thank
Round
you,
of
Mr.
applause for
Springer.
Denise Compton, a podcast watch.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful conservative lady. Hootie Ledbetter's Irene Goodnight. Lead us off, guys.
Yes,
Jerry
sir.
Springer will jump in.
I got married in the autumn. Divorced the very next spring. We couldn't even make it to the summer. I think I'll go and pawn my wedding ring.
I said, Irene, good night.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.